Mexico drug lords is killing. Havoc unleashed across Mexico. Cartel gunmen go on violent spree. Word gets sense of cartels is power. As violence sweeps Mexico after cartel leaders is death.
Welcome back. I'm Udar Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. Our big focus this hour. In the early hours of February 22nd, 2026, Mexican security forces launched a daring operation in the rugged hills of Tapalpa, Jalisco. Their target, Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, the elusive leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. Wounded in a fierce shootout, El Mencho died en route to Mexico City, marking one of the most significant blows to organized crime in recent years. He had a 15 million bounty on his head from the United States. This event has plunged parts of Mexico into turmoil, with cartel retaliation sparking widespread violence across multiple states. But to understand the current mayhem, we need to zoom out and examine the broader landscape of Mexico's cartel wars, a complex web of drugs, politics, corruption and bloodshed that has gripped the nation for decades. Hello, you're watching Explained. I'm Udar Pratap Singh. In this episode, we break down the history, the key players, the recent developments and what's at stake. We'll also explore how cartels evolved from regional gangs into global empires, why violence is spiking now and what the future might hold under President Claudia Sheinbaum's administration. Buckle up, this is a dive into one of the world's most entrenched conflicts. The drug lord was the Mexican government's biggest prize yet to show the Trump administration in its efforts to crack down on the cartels. His death was met with a forceful reaction from the cartel known by its Spanish initials CJNG. Mexico's cartel story starts in the 1980s, but its modern form exploded in 2006 when then President Felipe Calderon declared war on drug traffickers. Backed by US aid through the Merida Initiative, Mexican forces cracked down hard, arresting or killing top leaders. This kingpin strategy fragmented older cartels like the Gulf and Tijuana groups, creating power vacuums that birthed even more violent splinter factions. At the heart of it all is the lucrative drug trade. Mexico is a key transit point for cocaine from South America, heroin from poppies grown in its own mountains, and increasingly synthetic drugs like methamphetamine and fentanyl produced in clandestine labs. These substances flood the US market, where demand fuels billions in profits, estimated at $19 to $29 billion annually for Mexican cartels. But cartels aren't just about drugs anymore. They've diversified into extortion, human smuggling, fuel theft known as huachicol, avocado, hijacking and even controlling local governments through bribery or threats. The human cost is staggering. Since 2006, over 400,000 people have been killed in cartel-related violence, with another 100,000 missing. Entire communities in states like Guerrero, Michoacan and Tamaulipas live in fear, displaced by turf wars or forced to pay protection fees. Corruption runs deep. Cartels infiltrate police, judges and politicians, turning some regions into de facto narco states. Today's cartel scene is dominated by two superpowers, the Sinaloa cartel and the CJNG. But dozens of smaller groups vie for control, leading to constant alliances, betrayals and bloodshed. Sinaloa cartel, founded by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, now imprisoned in the US. This is Mexico's oldest and most resilient cartel. It's split into factions: Los Chapitos, led by El Chapo's sons, and La Maiza, aligned with Ismael Almayo Zambada, arrested in 2024. They control vast swaths of northwest Mexico, specializing in fentanyl and meth trafficking. Recent infighting, like the Matasalas versus Salazar's conflict in Sonora, shows internal fractures weakening their grip. Then there's the Jalisco New Generation cartel, led until recently by El Mencho. This is the most aggressive and tech-savvy group, emerging in 2010 as a splinter from Sinaloa. CJNG uses drones for bombings, armored vehicles, as well as social media for propaganda. They dominate fentanyl production, exporting it to the US and beyond, and have also expanded into Europe and Asia. Their brutality is legendary. Beheadings, mass graves, and attacks on military convoys are common. With El Mencho gone, experts predict a leadership scramble that could splinter the group further. The other key groups include Gulf Cartel and Los Zetas splinters in the northeast. Remnants like the Cartel del Noreste control migrant smuggling and fuel theft. Then the Guerrero and Michoacan factions groups like La Familia, Miocachana and Los Viegras battle over avocado farms and iron ore mines. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo later urged people to remain calm She wrote on X that in most parts of the country, activities are proceeding normally. What are the emerging threats? Well, in Durango and Zacatecas, CJNG is challenging Sinaloa with provocative banners signaling new turf wars. Fast forward to 2026 under President Claudia Sheinbaum, who took office in October 2024. Mexico has ramped up its anti-cartel efforts amidst pressure from the US administration. Donald Trump's threats of tariffs and military intervention have pushed Mexico to act decisively, with joint US-Mexico intelligence leading to high-profile takedowns. So who exactly is El Mencho? Well, there are only a handful of names that have had a lasting impact in the history of Mexican organized crime. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, more commonly known as El Mencho, is one of them. Hailing from humble rural roots in the western state of Michoacan, his rise to the top of one of the most feared and dangerous cartels in modern Mexico, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, was meteoric. It was achieved through aggression, ambition, brutality, and ruthlessness. His killing has been heralded as a victory in both Mexico and the United States. The Mexican authorities and the US reported that US intelligence was involved in bringing down the kingpin, lending the operation a sense of cross-border cooperation that could benefit both governments. For the Mexican military, a cartel leader has been removed from the equation, thereby weakens, at least in theory, and maybe for a time, the criminal group he ran. The response from El Mencho's men has been swift. Roadblocks have been erected and violence has spilled over into the streets in as many as 8 different states. From Guerrero on the Pacific coast to Tamaulipas in the northeast, even the capital Mexico City and the surrounding Mexico state have seen incidents. It's a show of loyalty from El Mencho's foot soldiers and a show of fury at the authorities for eliminating their leader. His leadership and his cartel benefited from the collapse of the Sinaloa cartel after the extradition of its leader, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, to the US. Subsequent battles between warring factions in Sinaloa ultimately tore the group apart. El Mencho was a clear beneficiary of the vacuum and the dramatic sequence of events in Sinaloa, but as is so often the case in Mexican drug crime, it was not a crown he wore for long. The cartel crisis isn't contained to Mexico. It drives the US fentanyl epidemic, killing over 100,000 Americans yearly, mostly from CJNG and Sinaloa synthetics laced into pills. Economically, violence deters tourism, a $25 billion industry and investment, while extortion hikes costs for farmers and businesses. Major airlines, including United, Delta, Alaska, and Air Canada, have cancelled dozens of flights to Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta due to security concerns. Schools in Jalisco and Guanajuato have cancelled classes, and public transportation in parts of Jalisco remains suspended. Guadalajara, the capital city of Mexican state of Jalisco, is scheduled to host 4 World Cup matches in coming June. The ongoing violence may have an impact on fans coming into the country. Mexico is also scheduled to play a friendly against Iceland on Wednesday at Corregidora Stadium in Querétaro, but the Mexican Football Federation hasn't made any official comment on the game being postponed as of now. What happens next? Well, fragmentation, reform, or now bloodshed. El Mencho's death is a win for Sheinbaum, but history shows kingpin kills often backfire. CJNG could splinter, leading to more violence as lieutenants fight for control. Experts predict short-term chaos but long-term weakening if Mexico targets finances and corruption. Given the element of US intelligence apparently involved, it also underlines the Sheinbaum administration's willingness to work together with Washington in pursuit of the same goals. She would hope it will be enough to stave off any further talk of the need for unilateral US military action on Mexican soil in the form of drone strikes or boots on the ground, something which some in the Republican Party and in the Trump administration have openly called for. Such discussions are still to come. For the time being, Mexicans are still processing that El Mencho is dead, and in his absence, watching cartel members set fires in the streets and cities across the nation. Mexico's cartel saga is far from over. The killing of El Mencho, though, might mark a turning point or just another chapter in an endless cycle. For now, the streets of Jalisco burn, a stark reminder of the high stakes in this shadow war.
Mexico drug lords is killing. Havoc unleashed across Mexico. Cartel gunmen go on violent spree. Word gets sense of cartels is power. As violence sweeps Mexico after cartel leaders' death.